Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the Polyhedra Show. So, today we are diving into a really cool conversation all about creativity and the future of AI and the creator economy. Joining me today are two incredible guests. First, we have Sam Pearden, the Chief Marketing Officer, obviously at Polyhedra. Sam has a crazy track record with creators and talent, and he spent many years helping creators and businesses build their own audiences. And we're also joined by Mansoor, the co-founder and CEO of Beethoven AI, which is an AI-powered audio platform that's making it easier than ever for creators to produce original mood-based tracks for their content. I love this stuff. I've played around with many AI tools, and this one is seriously cool and actually pretty next level. So I'm super excited for this show. We've received over 1,000 submissions from you guys, our community, tackling some big and interesting questions. So stick around, engage with us on YouTube, X, Discord, get in the conversation because we've got 1,000 USDT in rewards for great questions and input. So let's dive right into it. Thanks so much for joining us today, Sam and Mansoor.
Great to be here, Tony, man.
Thanks for having me.
Great to have you back. Thank you, gentlemen. Looking forward to the conversation.
Right on. Well, yeah, thanks, Tony, for having us, man. And great to have Mansoor from Beethoven here in our community today, talking shop. So, yeah, Mansoor, it's been great to get to know you a bit since you guys graciously agreed to join our marketplace. Opening up a lot of really cool music-driven experiences for our builders. And you have a very interesting story yourself. So I'd love to start there. Can you give a bit of a background on, what got you into music and then, how did that drive into the intersection of technology and what you're doing now?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, first of all, for having me on this show. And we are really delighted to be a part of the Polyhedra network, with our API. And I strongly believe like what you guys are doing is like really awesome and interesting. And I believe it's the future of this technology. A little bit about myself. I'm Mansoor. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Beethoven AI. I was born and brought up in a music family. So I was very fortunate to be born in a family back in India. We have these families of music that are dedicated to music over several generations. And there are very few of them. There are like roughly 6 or 7 such families. And I was born in one of those. And my family was a sitar music family. So we are specifically sitar players. And we have been in this instrument for the last 7 generations. So the instrument in some essence has evolved within the family in terms of shape, in terms of style, in terms of how it was played. We come from that lineage of back pre-independence India. We had courts and maharajas and palaces, and so there would be these kings and their court musicians. So my great grandfather was a court musician. So I was fortunate to get that tradition in the family, and then I was trained by my dad at the age of 7. I started my music journey, and it's been now close to 23 years I'm playing and just evolving myself and learning and improving as a musician. But the technological bit started when I was with my undergrad in signal processing and machine learning in 2015. That's when I kind of saw, okay, there is a whole space of music signals and machine learning. Like these are like 2 different spaces, but there is something, if you marry them, there's a really interesting space of research called music information retrieval. Generation of music wasn't a very big thing, although it was there historically, but not a very hot space yet. And yeah, that's how I got into the space, and then ever since I've dabbled around worn multiple hats. I've worked in futures trading for some time in a hedge fund. I have worked as a full-time musician, played 200 concerts across the world. I have released music on streaming. I've worked in startups, early stage, late stage. So I have a bit of experience of a lot of things. And And then eventually I just decided, it's fun to do all of this experience, and but the best thing to make impactful use of your time is to build a company. And that's when I started Beethoven AI. And the vision for us was generative music is the future of music, and it's going to be a very big part of humanity. So yeah, that's broadly my story, and happy to dive deeper into anything that you might want to know more.
No, that's awesome, man. No, I saw your post the other day of you playing a sitar at a tech event, and I thought, I feel the issue, my issue fundamentally with creation tools and AI, especially with something so sensitive like music, is that these platforms, seem to be not run by musicians, and they don't have the essence of kind of creativity or understand the creation process. So can you maybe explain, from a musician's perspective, how they can collaborate, or your kind of philosophy around how to reward creation and musicians and IP with Beethoven?
Absolutely. So when we started this company, it is a machine learning AI company from day one. So when you start a AI company, there are three main components to an AI company. So one is data, second is compute, and third is talent, right? So you can figure out compute and talent through hustling and network and resources. Data is the most important piece. Where do you get the data from? All right. So we were obviously like given two choices. One is just don't pay for the data and scrape all the content in the world and build something out of it, or do the right thing, pay for the data, work with artists, and build a business model that also rewards creativity. Because ultimately AI models don't mean anything without the underlying data. They are a function of the underlying data. And that's when we started thinking, okay, how can we create a business model where musicians can be a part of this whole equation, right? So I would personally go to artists, I would record them in the studios, and early startup days, it's just you and your co-founder, like there is nobody else, and you're still figuring things out. And musicians, I would just talk to them. I would ask them, hey, and this is 2021 we are talking about. 2025
Yeah.
AI, everyone's talking about. 2021, nobody was talking about this, And then I would be like, hey, we are working on this AI tool. What do you guys think about it? Do you guys believe AI is the future? Do you guys want to participate in it? And interestingly, we would see a lot of opt-ins coming from artists. They would be like, hey, if this can be a new source of revenue for us, in some essence, why not? We would love to be a part of this.
Yeah.
So ultimately, it comes down to, is this technology going to help me? Is it going to benefit me? And is it going to like create new revenue opportunity for me? At the same time, how can I use this technology as an artist? So as a music producer or an artist, they spend tons of time searching through sounds. I'm sure you're a musician yourself, and given
Yeah.
just the experience of, let's say, music production, or let's say we're working on a digital audio workstation, and you need to navigate through so many sounds. You have to go through thinking, to the process of ideation. It's a lot of work, right? And it can get overwhelming for somebody who's getting to start creating music. But if these tools can simplify that process and help you get started very quickly, or maybe they can automate and point you in the right direction, I feel there's a lot of value to be created there, which can eventually change the whole landscape of how music is created and consumed, in my opinion.
No, man, that makes total sense. And I'm of the firm believer that I haven't seen evidence yet where innovation's lost. And I think the music industry, when I was in my band, it was between around 2004 and 2010, and that was a really, that was probably, where the music industry was really battling with obviously the growth of technology, and they hadn't found a way to monetize. Post that, obviously Spotify, Spotify, has been such a, I guess, blessing in terms of, some people may not say that, but a blessing in terms of regulating streaming and taking it away from, black market fundamentally. So, for me, when I when Barack, our AI manager, said, "Hey, we're working with this platform called Beethoven, that are actually the first AI platform, that fundamentally is rewarding creation." Because that for me is really, really interesting, because, this is going to happen, but how are we actually doing it in an ethical format? And yeah, man, it's very impressive you guys have thought about that.
I mean, I'll touch upon that, right? Like today we talk about things like ethical AI, and suddenly there is this whole debate about, hey, what do we do about the training data in AI and all of that stuff? To me, it sounds like the people who are building these things have no idea about what they are building. Like, of course, there is opportunity, there is revenues, there is traction, there is these things are cool. But if you just look at it from a very fundamental human standpoint, um, we are looking at a technology which essentially needs the data sets of human creators to be able to work in the first place. And
Yeah.
what on earth gives you the permission to take away the creativity of artists and not compensate them for doing that, right? It's just an obvious thing. It's not ethical AI. It is the way AI needs to be approached, is through like doing partnerships, through doing licensing deals, taking permission, taking consent, rather than doing this what we are doing, most companies are doing today, right? Like it's like just build first, ask for forgiveness later, get sued in courts, and then fight it out in the courts. That's much more messier, and eventually everything will come to the point what we are talking about. It will come to the point where they will have to go and they will have to ask for permission, and then imagine what would happen there, right? Like you first set the expectation level at a very high level by scraping all the content of the world, and then suddenly you get sued in courts, and maybe let's say there's a judgment that says that, hey, you need to license your content. It's realistically not possible for you to go and license all that content that you have used to train the model. So then you'll have to reduce the size of the amount of data that you have used to train your model, and naturally your quality might drop down. So isn't a better approach to license first and incrementally improve the quality so that the expectations are also clear from a consumer standpoint, and there is also the part where it will keep improving over a period of time, right? So that's how we thought about it. I think it just comes down to how you think about building a business. Like, do you want to include artists or do you want to exclude them?
Yeah.
Stealing from artists and then saying, hey, you can opt out, is worse than asking artists and asking them to opt in. So that's just how we thought about it.
Yeah, man. No, that makes complete sense. And have you got to the phase where you are actually giving revenues back to artists at this stage? And how does that work?
So initially when we started, most artists, when you're a very small company, do not believe that you will potentially become a big company or a very popular company, right?
Yeah.
So what is in it for them to get invested or buy into a company that might not pay off eventually? So at that point, it was just straightforward. You give us data, we'll pay you. It's like buyout. And it just makes sense when you're a very small company. But then as we kept growing and as we saw like a lot of traction, a lot of users from all over the world using our product, even artists that worked initially with us, we started doing some sort of growth hacks. We were like, okay, what if we send out an analytics report at the end of the year to all the artists that we have worked and share with them how their music was utilized in our AI and how much traction that has created on our platform. So, for example, we have an artist, let's say named Samuel, and we send a report saying, hey, Samuel, your samples that you submitted to Beethoven have closely generated close to, like, say, 3 million generations on the platform. Now, those are big numbers. And when they go out and post about that on Instagram and LinkedIn, it just gives them a sense of pride, right? Like, my music was utilized in this engine and it contributed and had such a big impact in the world. That is a story. And that's when we saw, like, okay, this is really exciting. If our artist partners are taking pride in working with an AI company, what if we eventually turn this into a monetization layer where it's not just analytics that we share with them, but we also give them money back based on how their music is getting utilized, right? And now we are in that direction. So we have already committed close to 35% of the company's revenues to the music industry. So what
Wow.
that means is every partner who's working with us today, who is contributing to our training data, there is a new model that we are launching, which is going to come out in the next quarter of this year. And
Yep.
this model will essentially compensate all the rights holders that are working with us
Yep.
directly through the revenues that are coming from the consumer subscriptions. So this is
Very,
the
very
first of its kind business model that we are pioneering. And my personal motivation to do this is I want to prove to the whole GenAI market that you can build these things by taking consent and also rewarding creators back, and not just stealing and telling the world this lie that you need to steal data of everyone in the world and not pay them back.
Yeah, man. No, that's super, super cool. Yeah, it's these niche businesses. There's a company in London called Ordo, and I know the founder quite well, Ryan Edwards, and they just saw that live revenue wasn't basically calculated properly. So music playing in cafes and public spaces, the revenue wasn't going back to the right artists, and they just created a simple box that goes in venues and cafes to basically collect royalty data cleanly. And now they've got invested in by Adele and the Beatles and all these crazy artists who are gravitating towards wanting to making things more ethical for creatives. And that's where I see Beethoven. I see 5-10 years down the road where AI music generation is I think there's always, from my experience, I think there's people are a massive part of music and celebrity, right? I don't think that AI is ever going to replace that really emotional connection that humans and experiences have with an audience. But I loved when you talked about the iteration opportunity, of that artists can utilize your platform as well to actually iterate and try out different ideas on a mass scale. But back to my point, I feel like you guys being obviously first to market, you have this real opportunity to start with smaller artists. But I wouldn't be surprised if I see some of the bigger names gravitate towards you once we see kind of AI generated music become a more mainstream element in society.
No, absolutely. In fact, what you just said earlier, right? Like in terms of the connection with human artists, I mean, people don't go to listen to music just for the music. There's a story behind that music. There is the artist aura behind that music. There are so many factors that cause an artist that cause people to gravitate towards an artist, right? Like, let's say your favorite artist is performing in your city, you will find a way to get there. Like that's like top of mind for a person who is like a big fan of that artist. So my point is, like, in resonating to what you said earlier, right? I don't see a future where artists are going anywhere. Good artists are going to, in fact, have much more value in the AI era, because what
Sure.
my hypothesis is, when in a world where there is so much AI generated content, what is going to stand out for really unique artists versus AI generated content, right? Like if you look at all of the platforms, you'll see flooded with all AI generated content. You would not know what is really AI, what is really human. So in that kind of a situation, the ones who are really talented and really unique will stand out, because the mean has kind of, now the bar has gone much higher, so that's my take on this entire I'm definitely, it is going to replace, there is no doubt about it. Like there is like it's already starting to do that.
Yeah.
The ones who are saying that AI is not going to replace, AI is here to like help a tool, all of that is like not entirely true. Of course it is a tool, but it is also a replacement technology. There are so many aspects of it that are going to replace so many job functions and things like that. But at the same time, if you are good at your art and what you really do, my strong belief is that you will find more value in the AI era than you are finding today.
Yeah, no, 100%, man, 100%. No, I think that's so true. I look at talented people that are utilizing AI, and I look at our CTO, for instance, who's using AI in a lot of his code flows, but he has to know if it's good code or not, and it's the same when I watch really creative people, utilize AI to iterate and make things. You need to know if it's good, and that's the hardest thing. I think that's the hardest thing of being a creative, is that conviction of knowing that this piece of music is going to connect. When I was in my band, we wrote our best songs before we had before we weren't thinking about choruses or had the A&R guy telling us we need to write a hit. We were so young. The pressure, when we got signed to EMI Records and we started having all this external pressure of telling us, oh, that hook isn't good enough, or that really took away, that really took away from kind of the energy of what our band was actually creating. I can't imagine being a young artist now and having access to Beethoven to basically iterate and create so many more tracks, so many more kind of ideas, trained on kind of the style of writing that and our identity. So yeah, when you said that, man, it makes me want to get back back on the drum kit,
No, I mean, that's really cool. I mean, I also think like you mentioned about your band, there used to be so many interactions between you and your band members, which would also drive the music that you guys would create, right? And that the sound that you guys would create. I'm a big believer of individuality. I believe that every human being has this very personalized individual journey, which is extremely hard for any AI to replicate. AI is more like a mean on an average of all of collective intelligence of the world, and it's only at least where it stands right now is a representation of all our thoughts and our identities and our ideas on the internet. But there is this entire world that is not on the internet, right? The human experience of our interactions, so how can AI capture that? I mean, of course, we have robotics and all of those things happening, but at the same time, my perspective is it is very hard to replicate the human emotion, the human feeling of when you're creating music. It is driven by individual experiences and it's driven by interactions, and that's what truly makes certain artists stand out versus certain other artists. So that's basically my belief, at least when it comes to the creativity and art space.
No, man, that completely makes sense. It's just such a fascinating kind of world, and entering in with what we're doing, and you and I have touched on this, but our team have invented a research paper called ZKML, which is fundamentally a product that verifies if AI models are operating correctly and what makes the ingredients of that AI model. So we definitely feel there's massive amounts of use case for kind of IP protection on our side as well, and that's obviously a very big it's almost like a pet project, or it's a big thing for me, wanting to make sure that the future does have that still that connection with the creative worlds. And but I love how you're talking about it, that both can win, right? The artist can win. AI gives endless possibility for scale, not just and it's not just about the creation side, but having AI helping you promote your artist and promote your music and automate things that people used to need, managers and PR and social media. It kind of platforms like Beethoven and then kind of the rise of AI agents kind of democratize democratize the ability for people to actually have resource to get their music out there.
Oh, absolutely. That's a very good point. And in fact, like you touched upon ZKML, and I strongly see so many problems in the AI space, and I strongly believe a lot of the things that you guys are doing could be potential solutions to those problems. Problems around IP protection, problems around transparency, problems around how do we even attribute, like attribution, for example. There are so many of these different problems, and ZKML has so much of a promise to be able to solve those problems. And it is going to be I strongly believe there is going to be some layer of combination and collaboration between machine learning and blockchain, where both of those technologies are going to work together. One would face the consumer, one would be in the background rewarding everyone who's contributing. I strongly believe that is going to happen. And any company that is working in that direction is going to see a lot of things play out in the next, at least next 3 to 5 years, is what I strongly feel. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, no, that's so exciting, and we're right there for that, and that's why we're so excited that our marketplace can be that first kind of stepping stone to connect to incredibly different but dynamic industries. So before we jump onto questions, and we'll bring Tony back in, can you give a pitch to the what does the next 12 months look like for Beethoven, and what anything else that you've got coming up?
I'm really excited towards the new model that we are building. It is one of the first fully licensed model. And what it means to say is we are building a foundation model for music generation, where you can give lyrics, you can give text, you can give audio, video, different kinds of prompts, and it will generate whole compositions for you with vocals and instrumental music. And this is completely trained on 100% licensed data. So this makes it super interesting. What we are trying to say here is, like, it's totally possible to build all these technologies without scraping from the internet. So that's the first piece. From the launch, the next phase for us is we are launching an API, and we're also going to be launching our own MCP server. The goal is anyone who wants to wipe code into music apps, or anyone who wants to build a music application, they can just kind of like use our API and build it very quickly. And the idea there is also towards the attribution side. What happens when you make money from that business model? What if it works? We will dedicate revenues back to the music industry. So we are going to build this whole ecosystem where there is supply coming from the music industry and demand coming from the creation industry. So that's the plan for us, at least for the next 12 months.
Very cool, man. Very, very cool. Hey, Tony, do you want to come back in, man, and we get some questions going?
Absolutely. That was a really, really cool chat, gentlemen. And Mansoor, super cool to hear your backstory, like the family legacy, and how that's all transferring into AI. That was really, really cool. Listen, I'm sure that our community is really loving that as well. I did just want to touch on, the model that you guys are using is super, super cool. Like Sam had mentioned that, about Spotify usurping the black market, right? And it seems kind of like data scraping right now is essentially the same thing. So your license first approach is very, very cool. And hopefully, and I think, as an industry and the fan economy, I think we'll all see that signal and not be opting into, maybe nefarious players in the market. Obviously some really cool cross section with ZK I can think of as well. But let's jump right into some of these questions from the audience. So this is a cool one. What's the most impressive example of AI enhanced audio or visual storytelling that you've seen recently?
Oh, this is a great question. There was this MIT AI hackathon that happened recently. It was a filmmaking hackathon. And somebody from their team reached out to me and they were like, hey, there are all these college students and they're like all these kids and they want to kind of create films can you guys please be an enabler for our hackathon? And I was like more than happy. I said, like, we'll give you guys free credits. Take this tool and see what these guys do. And like us, there are a lot of other companies like in video generation, image generation, look, who all partnered with us. And there was one particular submission that I saw, which was the winner of that hackathon, and they used our music, they used some of the other tools to create the visuals. It felt like such an amazing storytelling experience. It was basically about this traditional life inside of China, like, taking it back to like 13th century, 14th century, and it's about like it was like some there was also a ghost element to it. So it was just an imagination of somebody, and they were able to capture it so beautifully using all these tools and create a very high production film, which eventually went on to win the hackathon.
Nice.
What that proved to me
Sure.
was like the times have changed. Like, people can sit inside of their bedrooms and make like full length films. All you need is like an imagination, and you can write your own script and you can create like a whole film end to end. And this is just going to give access to a lot more people, because traditionally, if you wanted to create a film, you would need so many resources, right? You would need to have a studio, you needed to have all these expensive cameras, you would need to go to this set, do all these things. And today you can just sit in your bedroom and you can churn out these films. Of course, quality is not that great, but today that's the problem. But give it like another 3 to 4 years and see where we are going to go, right? So I think
Totally.
you and I would be sitting in our rooms and making films and releasing it and putting it on film festivals. Who knows?
I love that, man.
That's what Sam. I just actually set up my my bedroom studio today, so I'm gonna start getting into it. I was actually thinking of like the cross section as well, which you were just talking about with audio and visual. Someone who's super audio creative. It'd be cool if you could just have something that's like understanding the emotions or the lyrics that you're coming up with, and creating some kind of audio visual presentation could kind of like bolster your creativity in that way, or vice versa. Like you're making a video or a photo and having a track along that with it would be super cool. I shared one on my X. It was by Az Alta, and it's a video called Age of Beyond, completely AI generated, super cool. If you guys want to check it out, I'll drop the link.
Well, it gives. I just was thinking about. I can't kind of reference one point, but what I do love about like AI driven video and music, it creates. It is a platform to be more abstract and more innovative in a sense. It takes away all concepts of what reality is. So, it's going to be really, really interesting to see what new kind of genres and formats come out of this space. So
yeah, definitely.
That's just a bit of an add-on to that question. But
yeah. And you're speaking before about authenticity as well, Sam. And I know that you talk about that a lot, so I was really stoked that you guys touched on that. But obviously, Mansoor, as you pointed out, that in a world full of AI kind of generated audio and visual, it's like that authenticity and uniqueness will stand out. I think that's so true, and a really, really good point. Yeah, that's really, really cool. But I'll jump into some more questions, guys. So I think this is a relevant one for you guys. You guys have some insights here, but what do you think is the most important skill that creators should master in the next few years?
I can go first on this. I think one is obviously, I don't think anything changes from the point of working on yourself and working on your own skills. I think that will continue to happen. The tools will change. So traditionally, the tools that were available to me to hone my skills will just evolve into new tools that are available to make me much more efficient and much more faster. Like, I can give you an example. Like, in my own work, if I had to draft, let's say, a proposal contract, right, to a business, I would have to spend time thinking, ideating, like how this should go about, like what should be the points I should include, even the sentences that I need to write, right? But today I can just go on my Google Docs and ask Gemini to write it for me, and it will just do that and create like the whole document. Now that just saves me like almost an hour of time down to 10 minutes. Now this is the same skill. I still know what I want from it. I still know my own skill sets and I know what I'm expecting from it, but it's just helping me write faster. This is just an example. I would see that translating to almost every field. I'm creating music, I'm creating a film, I'm creating video content, I'm creating podcasts, I'm creating all kinds of different content, or I'm doing any sort of skill. I would just use these tools to just increase and improve my efficiency. But it still comes down to the point that it is still me as a creator or me as a human being who's kind of putting my brain and thought to it. So that's how I would see. So I think that part doesn't go away. You still need to learn, you still need to be hungry, and you still need to kind of like keep figuring things out in life. But the tools will evolve to something which is much more sophisticated and much easier to make your life simpler.
Yeah, I'll double down on that. I think it's also, yeah, I don't think just because there's access to AI, it means it's less work. You know, I think that's a misconception. I think, you know, the artists, obviously, that you need to have the talent, or you need to know what you want to do, and you know, have, the word is vision, but you know, you need to want to work. I think the artists that work the hardest, and I was talking to a music manager the other day. I had lunch with him, and you know, he's making, you know, this is a young hot band, and you know, he's making them do everything, you know, making them run their own social, book their own gigs, you know, record their own demos, you know, because yeah, he wants to give them, and this guy's managed, you know, multi-platinum winning, Grammy winning artists, but he said it's most important at the moment, even in this dynamic, that people learn how to you know, learn how to run things themselves. And I see it in the business landscape. You know, the best kind of, I guess, influencer for companies are the founding team, or like the, you know, and that's what it's the same with creators, or if you're an entrepreneur. I think you know, working on yourself and creating things that you like and you think an audience will like, but then also putting yourself out there and taking risks and building on your own brand, and then trying to utilize AI tools and infrastructure to basically you know, make those processes easier.
Yeah, totally. So still a lot of work, but maybe the outputs will become more streamlined or like even better. So the thing that I see with AI and you know, I think it's going to be the same with the creator economy, is that you'll just see like a higher level of output and people getting super creative with it, probably in ways that we haven't really thought about yet, even, you know, like yeah, gosh, who knows? But it's going to be super exciting to see how it all rolls out. I do really love what you guys are doing at Beethoven and Mansoor, especially when you're talking about rewarding the creators. Really good business model, man. And you know, it struck me that it's almost like it's like a collaboration between the artist and you know, the platform, as opposed to, you know, I guess like a black box that doesn't share what the inputs were. And you know, I think that being appreciated for that in the ways that you were explaining, I think is going to resonate with a lot of people. So like, yeah, kudos to that. It's really, really cool. All right, we've got a bunch of questions here, guys. I'll try and roll through a couple more. A few you guys have already touched on. This person's asking about AI agents. And do you ever think they'll be able to own their own work or share revenue with human creators?
That's a very good question. I think agentic LLMs are a very powerful technology. They are going to solve some really, really boring work for us. In the sense, like, if I have to go book an appointment, if I want to like talk to customer support and like resolve an issue, I want to do like day-to-day things that are a huge waste of time, wait for someone on the call for 10 minutes for like find a customer support, like all of those kind of things. Or for example, if I am producing a music piece, and imagine I have like a co-pilot or like an agent that is kind of assisting me, hey, like this piece might go well with this, and it's kind of like collaborating, and we're kind of like interacting with each other. There are so many of these things. I feel it is going to be like an assistant. Like, so today we delegate a lot of tasks to people, right? Like in the sense, like I'm just double downing on like what Samuel said earlier, right? Like if you see like the technology of what's happening is you need to get more efficient at understanding on using these tools for the work that you do. So if these tools can help you grow revenue or grow your business or grow your art form at a rapid scale, so that's how you would make more revenue from it. I think expecting an agent to share revenues with you, I think an agent is more like an employee to you. It can help you improve your productivity, and it can help you get to the things that you want to do. Imagine if you had like a agent that is just, the job is like to do marketing for you, right? Like, and while you're sleeping, while you're not doing anything, it's in the background kind of going and promoting your music or promoting your film. And then you just wake up in the morning and see like this has millions of views without you doing anything about it. But today you would have to like post it on YouTube, on Instagram. You'll have to keep managing it. I think the whole world is going to transform with these technologies coming in. So I wouldn't expect an agent to share revenues with me, but I would expect it to like be a assistant that helps me improve my productivity.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed, man. Agreed. You just made me think it'd be super cool though, like, if like having a band with you if you didn't have your band, and being able to riff with an agent, like I can't play the drums, for example, but if I was like, hey, I'm thinking it's like, and then it just comes up, I'm like, oh, cool, it'd be such a cool way to just have a jam. Yeah, super cool. I'm excited for all of this.
I mean, in fact, like I used to so I went to school at for my master's at Georgia Tech in Atlanta, and they have this entire music technology department. And back in 2015 onwards to 2018 stuff, they were, and even today, so there is this one lab called robotic musicianship, and what they do is they build all these robots that can join you on stage, and while you're performing, and the robot will improvise with you. So these things are already out there, and I've seen, and they have like performances in like some of the most amazing auditoriums across the world. So it's a showcase today, it's a proof of concept, but tomorrow it's going to be an actual thing, while I'm performing. And it's so cool, right? You can have your like today, lots of the one reason why bands split is because there are ego issues, there are like all these different kinds of problems. But if you have like AI bots like with you, like there's no ego, there's nothing, like it's just like listening to what you have to say, and it's collaborating with you. So I think there is some merit there, is in my opinion.
Oh, for sure. I think that's just super interesting, of having that, the ego or opinion taken out of it. That was always a very difficult it's a difficult element in every relationship, but music and creativity is so personal. So having the idea of having collaboration with AI agents to take away that friction point is very fun.
Yeah, super cool. I'm looking forward to having like my Optimus bot just like shredding on the guitar next to me.
The sitar.
Yeah. Bring Mansoor, and we definitely need to get together and have a jam at some point, lads. That'll be super fun. All right, let's keep rolling. This is a super interesting one that's talking about ZK, which is, with the ZKML Festival highlighting the importance of trust in AI. How can technologies like ZK help creators in the music industry verify the authenticity of content and protect their IP in an increasingly AI-driven creator economy? And Mansoor, you mentioned before, if there were other companies that were to say use your stack and use the API or use Deep Oven and generate a wrapper, so to speak. I think that would be one cool way. Like, if I'm using a product and it has a proof attached to it that says that the underlying model was Beethoven, and I know that as a creator, okay, this is rewarding, the artists, and it's fair. It's not some nefarious, I think that would be one really, really cool way. Do you have any other ideas, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, I think the blockchain in the future will be, we feel, is going to be a real ledger system for one, ownership. So, and then the ZK element, in particular, ZKML can prove on a mass scale, on a very scalable level, that the ingredients behind where content and creativity comes from. I mean, we're already talking to several of the large LLMs and seeing where collaboration points land. But the idea will be collaborating more deeply on a technical level with people like Mansour and Beethoven to see how a variation of their product can be set up for kind of to create new kind of user experiences in the blockchain space. So it's all very in its infancy. A lot of the time our CTO, when we're talking about marketing, TC says, yeah, it's very difficult to explain something yet that people don't have in their mainstream consensus, their mainstream conscious as a problem. So we just, at the moment, while we're doing the festival and while we're trying to do more interesting content, it is around just where we're really in that education phase of letting people know what we're building and why, and then we'll be starting to roll out more kind of different case studies and more kind of content around what we feel the technology can be exposed to in the future.
Yeah, awesome. Very, very cool. And it's definitely needed, when we're talking about provenance and protecting that IP. And obviously, yeah, again, like when you have many options, and it does hark back to that era of when there was, the black market options for scraping data. It'll definitely be really, really a really strong tool in the toolbox for artists to be able to protect that, and also protect models and business models such as Beethoven, from to keep the market share that they deserve, and make sure that everyone knows that that's the model that they're supporting. So very, very cool. Mansour, how do you, got a question asking how you incorporate feedback, whether it's from musicians or users, to help to refine your model?
Yeah, there are two levels of feedback. So one is user feedback. So on the tool, there is an implicit feedback that we get. Let's say somebody comes on the tool and generates a track, and they end up downloading it. That is a direct indication that they found what they were looking for. So that is a feedback loop that goes back to say that, hey, these are the kind of prompts and these are the kind of downloads. This combination, these pairs are working. And then there are other pairs that are not working. So how we optimize for these pairs and less optimize for the other pairs, right? So that's more on the user side of things. The musician side of things is much more interesting. It's much more subjective. So what we do is every couple of months, every time we make a major improvement on our models, we select a bunch of musicians and we just randomly send them outputs from this model. And we ask them to rate them on 7 key musical parameters. And these could be like genre representation, mood representation, what do they think about the consonance or dissonance, these musical parameters. So it's a subjective evaluation, and there is also some objective sound evaluation that we do. So that's how we keep improving the system over a period of time. Today we have come such a long way from where we started. I remember listening to the first music generated which we had created in 2021, and I felt like it was absolute trash. And but it was something, and from there today what we have is like much 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 more significantly higher quality. And what we've seen is, as a business, there is a direct link between music quality and convergence. The more we improve the quality, the convergence keep growing up. So this is a very interesting phenomenon in music generation. So that means people are willing to pay for something that gives you value and is also of high quality. So that's what our North Star metric is. That's what we keep optimizing for.
Very, very cool. Great to see behind the curtain a little bit about how you guys are optimizing. That's
very cool.
Really, really cool. Yeah. You're talking a little bit about timelines. And I know you talked about it a little bit before, but how long do you guys think, we've all seen like the current, AI generated music and art, but how long do you think before we have like a fully AI generated movie with like all audio and visual, with no human involvement? Do you think that's
I think
on the
it's already
horizon?
kind of done, and also it's going to be very much
Yeah.
possible now. Like with agentic LLMs, just it's all about just plugging into all these different APIs and then like putting it together and stitching and creating a film, right?
Yeah.
But I think that would be really helpful for, let's say, a content creator, who is wanting to frequently keep posting content and grow their audience. If there is an API that can like just stitch all of these things and create like a video content with music and sound effects and vocals, voiceovers, everything, and just keep posting on your behalf, I think that would be like a really cool use case of this technology. But I strongly believe that I think the human element is still going to be super important, because you will still need to kind of guide it to what it is that you want to create, right? It can't, otherwise it'll just create random stuff which might not make any meaningful sense to your audience.
Yeah, totally. Agreed. It's got to have soul. And yeah, I think people love stories, and there's stories in art and in music that help to define what that is. I haven't yet seen anything that inspires the same in me yet anyway. I wonder if these AIs will be creating like movies for other AIs to enjoy more so than humans. Who knows?
I love it.
Right
on, man. Well,
yeah,
I've got to bounce. I've got to bounce to another meeting, and I'm sure Mansoor does as well. But thank you so much, Mansoor, for coming on today. I really hope we can do this again in the future.
Absolutely, and I'm really looking forward to working with you guys.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sam and Mansoor. And guys, go check out Beethoven. Obviously, follow them on X, and try it out. Trust me, you will not be disappointed. All right, guys, have a fantastic day, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Tony. See you, man.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.